guys, what's going on? So today we're looking at the Audiospace AS-2i tube integrated amplifier. So if you don't know Audiospace is a Hong Kong based company making beautiful tube amplifiers from affordable to expensive. So today we're looking at the affordable, and this is their entry-level integrated amplifier. So let's get on with the build quality first. So if you see here, the first thing that I noticed, other than the fact that it's a beautiful design, is the venting holes. There's a venting hole on both sides of the chassis as well as around the tubes. So there's a lot of heat dissipation on this amplifier, which is important for the longevity. Now looking at the front plate, which is just beautiful in color, which we'll get into in a minute, but you see a power knob, a headphone section, a negative adjustment, minimum and maximum, and as well as a volume knob and an input selector. Now looking at the back, you see multiple inputs, CD, aux1, aux2, and also you see an audio out, meaning that you can use this as a tube preamplifier if you so wish to. So one thing that I didn't like about this amplifier in terms of build quality and its features is that it doesn't come with a remote control. Its upper models do, but this one doesn't. So I thought that was a bummer. Now the overall build quality of this amplifier is outstanding to me, and I really love the design, especially this goldish, champagne gold color. I just love that. It does come with a tube cage, which is very nice. It just sits right on the unit. The unit is quite heavy, it weighs quite a bit, and despite its size, it is quite hefty, which is a good sign. Heavy means sounds good, right? And the chassis is a reflective material, much like the ones you see in old Macintosh tube amplifiers, or tube amplifiers in general. You see that a lot. You see the power transformers here, and they're really nicely finished. And I can tell you that a power transformer is really important in a tube amplifier design and in the sound quality. So I think here they use really high quality, and I can really tell with the sound characteristics. Now, let's get into the sound quality. Now, to get to the sound quality, we have to really talk about the tubes used in this amplifier. The tubes used in this amplifier is the EO84 tubes, and they use one 12AX7 and two 12AU7. But the power output tubes is the EO84s. And the EO84s were really used in radios in the beginning and transitioned into being used in guitar amplifiers. And they were first really made in the 1950s by Philips for a tube amplifier called 5-10 Mallard. And this amplifier used push and pull design in class AB, I believe, ultra linear, outputting 10 watts. And much like so, this uses a class AB1 design in push-pull configuration. This outputs 12 watts and maximum 16 watts. And perhaps because the EO84s were used in guitar amplifiers, I really get the sensation that the mid-range, the guitars, the strings, the vocals, anything that contains in the mid-range really shows its beauty, and it's just ultra smooth and ultra beautiful. That's how I would put it. The mid-range is just absolute butter. The strings and the mid-range in general, the female vocals, the male vocals, really come to life. The high frequency, on the other hand, is very open sounding, very lively sounding. So a good match to this amplifier that I found was the Klipsch RP600M that I reviewed recently, which you can find the link to the review right here. Now, other than that, we have the Triangle Titus that's coming up for review that I paired with this and sounded absolutely great. I also paired it with my JBL L300s as a speaker from the 1960s. And that sounded great as well. In fact, I had Nick and Tujan over, and they stayed until 4 a.m. in the morning listening to that combination. and so they just wouldn't leave. It sounded that good. To be honest with you, it sounded that good. Now the soundstage is much holographic, like a 3D holographic concert experience. You get that with this amplifier. The imaging is still good, but it's not good as a solid state. And one thing that's lacking compared to a solid state is also the bass authority. So although the mid bass is punchy, it's not as tight as a solid state. For example, the atoll or even the parasound. A good designed solid state will have that bottom end authority. This doesn't have that bottom end authority. So if you're looking for something like that, then this may not be the perfect fit for you. But to me, if the mid-range doesn't sound right, then nothing sounds right. And to me, this sounds right in the mid-range. The mid-range is absolutely beautiful. And I play guitar, I play saxophone. So in those tracks, I can really tell that it was in the room. It was not like I was listening through speakers. It was as if the instruments were in the room being played by someone. It's a different kind of experience. And I really like that about this amplifier, being able to convey that kind of live experience. Now, this has two sound characteristics really. The one I described to you just now was the minimum negative feedback setting. So if you have it at the minimum, that's what you will get. At the maximum, you'll get a little bit of more bass, a little bit more recessed mids, and the highs are trimmed down a little bit. So I didn't like that for my personal use, but you can certainly play around with that. Now moving on to the headphone section, because I like headphones as well, I was thinking if it can convey that kind of mid-range and the liveliness on the top end with stereo, can it do it with headphones? So after pairing multiple headphones with this amplifier, what I found was that most planar magnetic headphones from Hyphen or Odyssey or whatnot doesn't really work too well. The high frequencies are a little bit too brilliant and a little bit too bright, a little bit too lively. But when it comes to dynamic headphones like Focal or even the Sennheisers, really it made it more live sounding and the mid-ranges were much more beautiful. So I think that's a plus because if you have those headphones, then you get more out of this integrated amplifier. So now let's talk about pairing. Now the first speaker that I heard with this amplifier was actually the Sonetto from Sonos Faber. I heard the 3 and I heard the 2, if I remember correctly. And it drove it perfectly fine. In fact, I had it at 50% volume and in a small room, it was perfectly fine. Now I don't know about big rooms because this is technically 12 watts and 16 watts maximum. So it's not gonna have the largest headroom. But let me remind you that 12 watts in tubes is actually more than 12 watts in solid state. Tube watts are actually more powerful. Now, in accordance with that, when I had it paired up with my Klipsch RP600M, I didn't really need to crank up at all. Actually, I had very little room to play around with using this volume knob. I could only kind of like not even 1/10 of the way, so to speak, and it was blasting. Sounded good though. Now, same thing happened with my Triangle Titus. Didn't need much at all, 1/10 of the volume. With my JBL L300, which is a big speaker, and despite that, it's very efficient, so really didn't need much at all. Now, my JBL L300 was in a kind of confined, smaller space. It was in the basement before, now it's in my main room where I edit and stuff like that. So keep in mind that although I didn't need to crank it up even past 1/10 of the way, I was in a small room. So if you didn't notice, most of the speakers that I tested this amplifier with were horn speakers. And I really think this amplifier sounds really good with horn speakers. And you know, it's just coincidence that I had a lot of horn speakers to play around with and came in for review. So I highly guarantee it if you're looking to get a Klipsch or a Triangle, then this amplifier is certainly a good bet. And also, if you were to get a vintage JBL speaker, I think this would drive it phenomenally. And also, aside from that, it can drive speakers like the Sonos Faber Sonetto 2 or even the 3, which is a floor standard. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Shh.